Simple living isn't about living a life that's devoid of everything. Simple living means not overcomplicating life any more than it is already. So in this video, I'm going to take you through 7 simple living tips that help to reduce my stress levels and give me more time to spend on the things that really matter to me. Some of the items on this list may not be right for you, and that's okay. Take what works and discard what doesn't. And you might have noticed that my little co-host has joined me. So the first tip is to get clear on your values. Now, values are the things that we hold dear in life. They're the things that are really important to us deep down. They represent the sort of person we want to be, how we want to live our lives, who we want to be to other people. Values might be things like being loyal, being caring, open and honest. And the way I see values is that they are the foundation of who we are. They inform how we behave and how we live in the world. So for example, if honesty was a value that you held really dearly, if you were put in a position where you were being asked to lie, that would likely really jar against you. It would feel really uncomfortable because what's happening is it's going against that really deep-rooted value of honesty. We all have values, whether or not we're consciously aware of them, but when our values are being challenged, we definitely feel it on a visceral level. So once you're clear on your values, you're in a much better place to think about what you do and don't want in your life and who you do and don't want in your life. And this makes life a lot less stressful because you are aligning your life to the person you want to be. So tip number 2 is to stop doing and start being. And what I mean by this is that I've been guilty of getting stuck in a cycle of doing, of being on a treadmill, of being busy, trying to get more and more things done, trying to achieve more things. And there's been a few times where I've actually gotten close to burnout. And when I've taken time out and focused less on trying to get lots of things done and actually enjoying what's going on around me, this has helped me to become more appreciative of what I do have, as well as helping me feel a lot more calm and relaxed. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing and being productive. I'm not saying that. I think it's good to have goals and to want to achieve things in life. But what we need to do sometimes is make a conscious decision to stop, take a step back, and just take everything in and reflect and evaluate on what we've got going on in our lives. Because until we do that, we might not realize that in fact we're taking on a bit too much. Tip number 3 is to step away from consumerist culture. We're surrounded by advertisements and marketing campaigns, all trying to convince us that we're somehow missing out on something in life and that this particular product is going to solve all our problems. This isn't to say that items can't add value to our lives, because clearly they do. But I think it's fair to say that a lot of the things we end up consuming are things we don't really need if we think about it and if we're honest with ourselves. And it's worth remembering, of course, that with more stuff comes more maintenance, more cleaning, more tidying, generally just more work. So to avoid impulse purchases, try to give yourself a bit more time before making a decision. You can put items in your save for later basket, and that's something that I find really helpful for me. Rather than just rushing in and buying something, put it in the save for later so I don't forget about it and give myself time to think it through. Is this item that I'm looking at a want or is it a need? And you know what? I'm not totally averse to buying things that I want. I think that if we spend our lives buying only things that we absolutely need, that's potentially a really boring life, and it's nice to buy ourselves things that we want now and again. But the key is to give yourself time to think about it so that it's not an impulse purchase. If after thinking about it you buy intentionally and you say to yourself, okay, I don't really need this thing but I want it and I do feel that it will add something to my life, then at least you've gone into it with both eyes open. Tip number 4 is to simplify your schedule. If you're someone who tends to take on too much and fill your days full of things where you end up feeling burnt out, it might be time to be a bit more selective about the things you put on your schedule. If you feel overwhelmed, make a list of all the things that you've got to do and then be really honest about whether you actually need to do all of these things. Sometimes we might feel that because we're being busy, we're being productive, but that's not always the case. So with your list of everything that you need to do, think about whether there are things on that list that other people can do. Can you delegate those things to others? Are there things on the list that really aren't essential and you can let go of them? Tip number 5 is to try being boring. I like to think that I'm a bit of an expert at being boring, and here are some of the things that I do. Now, none of these things are forced. They're all routines that have built up over time without me necessarily realizing that that's what's happening, but they work for me in my day-to-day life. So don't feel you have to do any of these, but there might be some in there that maybe you could adapt to suit your own life. So I've talked before about the fact that I have the same breakfast. I've had it pretty much every day for the last 6 or 7 years, and I enjoy it. I wouldn't have it if I didn't enjoy it. And the times where I haven't had it, maybe when we've been away somewhere, we've been staying over somewhere in a hotel, I've actually really missed it. The great thing is that because I know I enjoy having that breakfast, I'm never going to be disappointed with it. I don't have to suddenly come up with a new idea for breakfast every morning. It's there and I don't have to think about it. Another tip is to batch cook. Now again, this might mean that you have a few of the same meals during the week, or you could freeze some of those meals and have them another time. But I feel this takes a lot of stress out of having to cook at the end of a working day. So my husband and I tend to rotate the same meals throughout the week. We have favourite meals that we tend to stick to. Sometimes we'll be a bit outrageous or spontaneous and have something we've not had before, but generally we have a certain number of meals that we really like and we'll have those. That might not be what some people like, but for us, again, it's just a routine that we've gotten into. We like it because we know what ingredients we need to buy, and there's no kind of last minute indecision when we get home from work about what we're going to eat. And my last kind of boring tip is that I have a set of clothes that I wear only for work. So I have a set of tops and some trousers that are only for work, and I have just about enough to get me through the week, and then I'll wash them and wear them again the next week. It means that I don't have the stress of trying to decide what to wear every morning. I can just pick out of the few things that I have and get ready for work. Tip number 6 is embrace the joy of missing out. And this term is something I read in the book by Oliver Burke called 4,000 Weeks, which is apparently the average time that a human being lives for, which sounds a bit depressing actually. So Oliver Burke talks about how it is inevitable that we are going to miss out on things in life. He argues that missing out is only debilitating if we fail to realise that missing out is a natural process of choosing one path over another. We can't do two things at once. It's a bit like Greg McKeown talking about the trade-off. If we say yes to one thing, we're saying no to something else. We can't do everything. And Oliver Burke also talks about how if we weren't put in a position where we had to decide what to miss out on, then things would lose their meaning. The fact that I've chosen to do this over that is because that particular thing means more to me. Say for example, Tala. You know, there are things that I can't do in my life because I have Tala, and I don't mind that. I am fully accepting that there will be places I won't be able to go because I have Tala. I don't care, because I get more joy out of looking after her, spending time with her, and seeing her enjoy herself when we take her out. And I guess you could say that these decisions that we make, where we do make trade-offs, they tell us things about us. They show us what's important to us, and that's a really good thing. We can learn so much about that. This thing has meaning because I'm willing to sacrifice certain things or turn certain things down for that particular thing, and I think that's great. I think when we have things in life that bring us meaning and purpose, that adds so much to our lives. Tip number 7, which I'm sure you have heard before, is limit your time on social media. And this is one I have to keep an eye on. It's so easy for me to get sucked into the social media black hole. And when I do that, I do find that my mental health suffers for it. I start to worry about all sorts of things, not just things I see on the internet, but things in my own life that I wouldn't normally worry that much about. One thing I found helpful is to be more intentional about how much time I spend on social media. So if I say to myself, okay, this evening I'm going to spend an hour watching YouTube, that is me being intentional about spending that time doing that. But if I've got other things that I want to do or that are important for me to do, and then I end up unconsciously sitting on YouTube for an hour or even more than that, and then I've not done those things, then that's not been an intentional use of my time, and that's when I can feel bad about it. But when I allow myself that time that I'm going to do that, it feels better. It doesn't feel unhealthy because I've factored it into my day and I've been intentional about it. If you'd like some more simple living tips to help reduce stress, then check out the video that's on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.